You want an excellent.
Pretty big a picture.
Yeah, that's all.
Got it.
But, okay, so we are live now. There, let me go live on Instagram. What's it? Instagram. I'm the only one that calls it Insta or the Gram because I try to sound cool. And
how's that working for you?
My daughter's at the age now where I'm not cool anymore. I'm just not.
She's just acting that way. She thinks
she
cool.
does because I have fun with her and make fun of all of her little friends that come over and talk about their ear piercings and all that stuff. So
ready, it doesn't end.
Okay. Clinton Podcast. Grow Clinton is a 501c6 nonprofit economic community development and tourism organization based in Clinton, Iowa. For more information, visit growclinton.com. Again, that's growclinton.com. Now, back to the show. What's happening, all you beautiful people out there in podcast land? Welcome back to episode 108 of the Grow Clinton podcast. Crazy how time has flown by. This episode's recorded on the first day of May 2025. I am your host, Andy Sokolovich, President and CEO of Grow Clinton. As always, joined by the lovely Jenny home from our office. Jenny, what's happening?
I had a great experience this morning. I got to visit with MFT CKF, which is a molded fiber corporation here in town. And they're one of our members. I got to go in and they gave me a full tour. And then I got to sit and visit with the staff. It was amazing. And that's
very cool.
I say it all the time. That's what I love about my job.
MFT CKF. It is a Canadian-based company that purchased what used to be UFP, also known as molded fiber.
Right.
So there is some changing of the guard there in ownership. But good. I'm glad you went out there. It's been a little while since I visited that plant.
I love it. And they were having a team builder kind of a thing where you take a picture of your tattoo, send it to HR, and then they're having guess the tattoo.
I'm not sending any of my tattoos to HR. I tell you that right now.
Well, they had huge response.
No, I'm sure that's really cool. My mother was human resources for 30 plus years, and some of the stories she used to tell me are just crazy. I don't know if I could do that. We outsource our HR here at Clinton for a reason. So. Well, glad to hear that, Jenny. You know what I'm also really excited about other than tattoos?
What?
Miles Communications and high-speed fiber internet. That's right, folks. The Miles Communications team right there in Miles, Iowa, supports the Grow Clinton podcast by offering us wicked fast, high-speed internet. Check them out. If they're not in your area, they're on their way soon. MilesTelephone.com. Again, MilesTelephone.com. High-speed internet and television and telephone services. Jenny, I'm super stoked about our guest today.
I am too, because it's a line of business I think is very exciting.
Well, and it's not often that we get to interview them.
Right.
So this is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So from the Quad City Business Journal, Dave, you look really serious over there, sir. We got Dave Thompson and Jennifer DeWitt. Thank you so much for joining us on the Grow Clinton podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, that's great, Dave. You should be in radio, man. That was awesome.
Natural.
So we absolutely love the Quad City Business Journal, and I'm interested to learn more about the history of the publication as well as what your plans are moving forward. You guys do an incredible job. I look at your twice a day. I get the email in my inbox, and we get the physical paper as well. But I want to thank you for your continued efforts to make your way to Clinton, Iowa, be able to pick up our stories locally and help us reach a broad audience to celebrate our successes.
You can count on it. Anytime we have an event or anything's happening here, you can turn around. There's Dave.
There's Dave.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know he's there, but you just got to peek around.
He's there.
He is.
You look, he's there.
So Dave and Jennifer, you go first. How long have you been in journalism?
I've been in journalism since 1987.
Very cool.
32 years at the Quad City Times, and then now we're in our fourth year here at the Business Journal.
Dave?
I grew up in a small town newspaper family, so I kind of got my start back in the 1970s. I went into the Army as an Army journalist for a while. Then I came back to the Quad Cities, and when I graduated in 1988, I started local journalism.
Yeah, very cool. So the Quad City Business Journal, how long has that been around?
We started in late 21. In fact, our first day online was the day the ribbon
Oh,
cutting on the
yeah,
bridge. So that
yeah.
was our first newsletter up.
Very
No
cool.
way.
And then
Wow.
our first print came out in that January of 22.
Now, what is your official title with the Quad Cities Business Journal, Jennifer?
I'm the editor.
Editor, Dave.
I'm the content editor.
Content editor, reporter extraordinaire. I love it. So tell me a little bit about how the Quad City Business Journal came to be.
We are part of the Corridor Media Group out of North Liberty, Iowa. John Lohman is the founder of that and the founder of us. And he had already had the Corridor Business Journal, which covers Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, North Liberty, that whole area. Oh, he was probably about in year 17 when he started to get asked again to come to the Quad Cities. And that turned out to be the right time. It had been his second ask. You know, we really could use something done like this here. And he decided to pursue it. And here
Yeah.
we are.
When I spoke with him, he told me back when it just started that this area needed something that just focused on the business and the development of our region. And I really had not noticed, but yeah, and there's so much going on. So we're really happy that you're here reporting it.
Yeah, there's no shortage of stories.
That's
for
right.
sure.
There's so much going on.
No shortage of stories. And today, in fact, at 10 a.m. this morning, we broke ground on a brand new project, the renovation of the old Bickelhop Arboretum home.
Yes.
So was the original ownership was the Bickelhop family 3 generations ago, and they raised their family in that home. And then ultimately in 2014, they turned the Arboretum and the home over to Eastern Iowa Community Colleges, the Paul B. Scher Foundation, and Clinton Community College to serve as its stewards moving forward. And we're investing about $5 million into that building to create a new event center. So I know I sent Dave already my quote, but that's very exciting. And it's stuff like that that the Quad City Business Journal is always up here capturing. And we do really appreciate, because you're making a drive from the Quad Cities and you're focusing on things that are very important to us here in Clinton.
And you cover so much ground. I mean, we talked before we went on air about how many counties you cover. Talk about that.
We cover 6 counties, 3 in Iowa, 3 in Illinois. So we're Muscatine, Scott, and Clinton, and Mercer, Henry, and Rock Island.
Wow. So Dave, how many reporters are there?
Well, it depends what you call reporters. Right now, we have 3 of us who regularly go out and cover stories, and sometimes the big part of the job is prioritizing what you can cover, what you can't cover. And I always said we could always use 6 or 7 more reporters to cover all the big events going on, but we're doing the best we can with a small staff.
Yeah. Now, Jennifer, what have you noticed in your time in journalism? What has changed, and what has the Quad City Business Journal become to reach the level of success it has today? Like, what changes or pivots have they made?
I mean, not just us, but the media landscape has changed so much. You know, your daily paper isn't near the size it used to be. I remember once having to stuff a Thanksgiving Day because the circulation staff needed more help. And, you know, you don't see those 7-pound papers anymore. And even, you know, TV, everyone has thinner staff. So we're just trying to cover more. And
Well, you guys do a great job with the staff that you have. So, Dave, what have you experienced as far as changes in journalism?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the print media side, it's the staffs are dwindling, and because of that, some papers don't get to cover some very worthy events. For example, just a few days ago, I covered some career fairs for young students here in the area.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things to do because you get young students going in there. Sometimes they don't have a thing. They don't have an idea what they want to do with their lives. And they come out and something just snaps in their head and they want to be welders or they want to do something else. And that's just inspirational to see.
Now, we were talking off air. This is a podcast, but I'm going to make it sound like it's radio. We were
It's
talking
radio.
off air
Off air.
about press releases. And that is something here at Grow Clinton, one, we do often because I'm a firm believer content in my world is king. And I constantly love sending out press releases. And then also, as a benefit to our members, we aid them and sometimes write it for them, a quality press release. Now, we were talking before we started the show about what makes a quality press release. Jennifer, Dave, what are you looking for when somebody submits something for your consideration to cover within the Quad City Business Journal?
I mean, we're looking for all the basics. You've heard it, all the W's, what, where, when, why.
Yep.
But so many people aren't even using press releases anymore. You know, they're sending you just very little and trying to get you to an event, and you get there and you aren't even given a fact sheet about what you're covering. And I just kind of think the press releases are kind of falling to the wayside.
And really, that's where you're getting your information. I mean, so it's
the
really
starting
important.
point for everything. Yeah.
Right.
You know, and it's from those that we might decide, you know, this might be a bigger story. We should dig into this. And so we welcome all press releases.
Okay.
We've got a news at quadcitybusiness.com can be sent to, and
I'm
you guys do
familiar.
a great job.
Cool.
Yeah, we're always sending Dave our press releases. I got a couple coming his way here shortly. But yeah, I said content is king, and I'm a firm believer in that. I just left a meeting with two individuals from LeClaire. We had a great lunch at Crane and Pelican, but we were talking
nice.
about how we can go about sharing positive things that are happening with the community. And a lot of people just want to focus on social media, but there's a whole group of readership and viewers out there that still look for that written content in a paper. What I like about your physical paper that you send out, it looks and feels different. It stands out. So when I get it in a stack of things that are on my desk pretty much every day, I can always grab it because I know it's just crisp, white, clean. It's got that little silky feel to it, and it just seems different than your traditional newspaper.
It's sleek. It's sleek.
That's John Lohman. He wanted to get to that because that's like Crane's business magazine. And before we started, he had the Corridor Business Journal, and they were every week. So when we came on, now they're every other week too, so that once a week, one of us is being published. But that was when he got to move to that slick paper. And,
Yeah, I love it.
yeah.
It stands out.
It does.
Now, Dave, not only does the Quad Cities Business Journal, the Corridor Business Journal, do some amazing things as far as covering stories in and around the Quad City region to include Clinton, you also have now introduced yourself into like the events game. You're hosting a lot of different events. Can you talk about the events that are available?
Well, Jennifer might be able to expand on that. We're mostly in the editorial side, writing stories, covering many events. But a part of our business model is we host events especially for the business community we hope are important topics for people in business in the area.
Yeah, because I know there was one just recently on logistics. There's one that I think you do quarterly on real estate. So it's really cool to be able, and I have yet to take advantage of them, but I do love the opportunity to learn more and surround myself by my peers. And I think it's great that a news outlet like the Quad Cities Business Journal is hosting events like that.
We really have events in like 3 categories. We have awards events. So coming up is our Women of Influence, where 11 women have been chosen and we're profiling them. And then we have a banquet to honor them. We also have signature events. The one you just spoke of was transportation and infrastructure.
Okay.
That's once a year. And sometimes some of those types of events we rotate between the corridor market and ours. So like if we had transportation this year, next year it would be up there, but everyone's welcome. And then we also have networking events. We put out a regional leaders magazine at the beginning of the year, and we had just a party to kind of celebrate all those folks that were featured in it, and any other people could come and meet these leaders. So
that was great. The regional leaders, the outreach. I think somebody contacted me. I don't know if it was Dave or you, Jennifer, but I was able to provide a whole bunch of names of professionals that are affiliated with the Grow Clinton organization. So yeah, that was really cool to be able to see their picture and a little write-up next to that, and then have the event to celebrate those individual successes is really cool.
Yeah, it also, there are a lot of serious subjects too, but it's an opportunity for people to have fun, get face-to-face meeting time. I mean, there's a value in people still meeting together.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book? I think it's called The Question Behind the Question or Beyond the Question. Did you ever read that?
No.
Oh, it's really interesting. I'll send you guys a link to it, but it really talks about specifically what you do for a career, when you're in conversation with somebody and they're sharing something that's important to them, whether it's a business success, it just goes through the process of asking them additional questions to kind of get deeper and deeper and really realize what the core of that story is and the impact and what's going to be engaging from your readership. Because if you just say so-and-so opened up a business on Main Avenue, okay, cool. So-and-so opened up a business Main Avenue after, moving to this country and living in a foreign country for X number. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of things that go with it. And you guys do a great job of capturing that kind of story within a larger story.
So that brings me to this. How did you both decide on journalism?
Actually, we are college friends.
Oh,
We
wow.
both went to Marycrest.
Okay.
We're on the crest together. But mine goes back to high school. I got on the yearbook, and then I got on the school newspaper, which in a little small town is one page in your weekly.
Yes.
Because I'm from Tipton originally.
Okay.
So, as soon as I got that ink in my blood, I just knew that I wanted to write stories and meet people. And, what else gives you a license to be nosy but this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And get in there.
How long does it take to write an article?
It depends on the article.
I mean, I know we do once a month. I have to submit my newsletter article, and I struggle with it. I don't struggle with the act of writing, but I always procrastinate.
Yes.
And I put it off. But because sometimes Dave, you'll come up here and you'll write down. Do you still do shorthand?
We have our
My
own.
version of short.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But you'll write down some notes, and then the next morning I see this beautifully written article that captured all these details, and all I saw was half a dozen scribbles on your piece of paper. So how do you retain all that information, and then how long does it take? What's your process to ensure there's a quality article that's featured in the Quad Cities Business Journal?
Yeah. What are your steps? That's good. That's a good question, Andy.
Well, one of my steps is, number one, just listen very carefully at the events. I mean, try to think of logical questions. And what I try to do, and I'm not suggesting everybody should do this, once you at an event and you listen well, think of how you're going to start the story, how you're going to end the story, and then start filling in the pieces. I think everybody has a different way that works for them, but that's the way that works for me.
We're not diagramming sentences anymore, but
Right.
Sometimes
I
it
remember
helps.
that. Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to just, jot down the 5 ideas that are going to need to be there somewhere. and
Yeah.
Follow the outline.
Is AI a tool?
It's a tool that we haven't mastered yet, but
Yeah.
it will be.
I went to a conference in AI. This is about a year and a half ago. And one of the things I remember is that the AI you see today is the worst it's ever going to be. From now
That's
here on
true.
out, it's going to get more complicated. It's going to get better, and the AI isn't going to put people out of work, but people who know how to use AI will put other people out of work.
Yeah, it's a tool
Yeah.
for sure. I know here in our office, I use it. I tend to rush through things, so I subscribe to many different programs. Chat GPT we use quite often, just because we write our own content.
Right.
We have pride in what we've written, but sometimes leveraging AI and it pops out, and you're like, that does sound better. I like the way that looks. But then also, recently we were going through a hiring process for a new position in Grow Clinton, and some of the cover letters that I read, no doubt 100% AI. There's no way it was not. So you got to be careful with how you use that. And then also what's cool too is as I write, articles and stuff for larger publications through the economic development world, you got to make sure you're citing your sources too. And if you're using AI, you have to make sure you got to be very, very careful.
Well, some of that stuff, I mean, the things that you do in your profession cannot be mimicked by AI. I mean, they're not going to show up to an event, and have that eyewitness
Right.
doing it, and that's really important too.
And it's still very important to us because, accuracy is number one to us.
Right.
So,
Has to be.
yep.
So what are you looking for? What are you kind of frothing at the mouth for when it comes to a story? Just anything, or is there in particular things you look at? Is it because it is the Quad City Business Journal? Does it have to be business related?
It has to be business related, but business is a lot of things. You just talked about the kids at the career fair. I mean, so school is business because that you're going to school so you can end up with a career, and it just can be a lot of things. We do a
Sure.
lot with nonprofits. We do, the standard things you'd think. We're always covering deer and Arconic and folks up here, but business can be history sometimes. We had a great piece on the Butterworth Center and the
Oh,
Deer
cool,
House.
yeah.
It was right, maybe our first year, but they were working to tell their story more, and it's history, but it's business.
So you guys have a huge field of things that you can pick from to write about. It's got to be hard to narrow all that down.
It's hard to not to get to something.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, to me, the business stories are also personal stories. I wrote a story a few years ago about a business called Terrific Pizza. And it's in the west end of Davenport. And the guy who started this, he is a cook in the Quad Cities, and he just struggled and worked very hard for years. And Terrific Pizza was one of his dreams come true, to start up his own little pizza shop. And that's, to me, that's just a great story.
Yeah. Speaking of pizza, you just had, well, I guess it wasn't pizza, but the young man that started a food truck that was just featured in the last email blast that I received. I think his last name was Hall. Is that correct?
There's
18-year-old?
Yeah, 18-year-old. I can't remember his first name. Munn. Sam Munn.
Oh, Sam Munn. Yeah.
yes.
But that was really cool and inspiring to see this young man just branching out. He's going through a culinary program in East Rhode Community College, and he's actually starting his own food truck. And I know, Dave, you had pinged me a couple weeks ago just asking for like what the food truck scene looks like here in Clinton.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do as part of Grow Clinton's mission to help entrepreneurs is sometimes shattered dreams.
Yeah.
It sounds bad, but we have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs that come to us with this robust business plan, but it lacks like
Money.
how are you going to generate revenue to support your expenses and things of that nature. But we work with a lot of food truck operators because what a great way to test the market before hanging your shingle on a physical storefront or a restaurant. So.
Well, and to pick up the story and do that what does that do for that business? And for businesses just like that. I mean, a lot of times people, like what you're talking about with this young man, might not even know he's out there. And now look, there's a face on it. It's out there. Everybody's talking about it. And that's what it's all about, right? In a business journal.
Yeah, I hope it gives them a few more customers, but I also hope it's in some ways an educational tool. There's some people, I think, when it comes to food trucks, they think they can just go out, get a truck, get a nice cook, and they're set. They're not. There's a lot of steps to be taken, and you have to have experience, you have to have a good business plan, and you have to have partnerships with
Right.
other businesses that will let you set up and
One of the other things we work with a lot with entrepreneurs and businesses, organizations alike, is search engine optimization. And that's why I'm such a freak about press releases,
Right.
because what we want to happen, and we've experienced the negative side of this several times, when you search Clinton, Iowa, when you search Grow Clinton, I want nothing but positive results.
Good stuff.
You want good stuff. And if you're not putting those press releases out there and generating that link and generating that online content, you're letting other people do that for
Right.
you. And I know Matt Parbs in our office, our vice president, has a great story of a gentleman that came from the East Coast. I cannot remember. Oh, he's with National Geographic.
Oh,
And this was
yep, that's
several
right.
years ago. But he said, really, you guys, like Clinton has no online presence. Several years ago. So this is probably like 2000. It was right around when Matt got here. So maybe 12, 13. And he said, I Googled Clinton, Iowa, and the only thing I could find was like stories about your council members fighting with each other and how crazy the council meetings are.
I remember that.
And I was like, ah, man, that stinks. So I'm a big fan of press releases, and I encourage every business owner, every organization, get stuff out there. I sit on the board for Information Referral, which is an organization in our community that helps disseminate food through the Riverbend Food Bank, as well as many other services they offer. But I always tell their director, Regan, let's get a press release out about that, because whenever she presents to us the amount of individuals that are taking advantage of that service, that number is never going down. It is always going up. And guess what? The amount of information that we receive from either the federal government or the state government and the amount of incentives we receive is going down, down, down. So the demand's insanely high, and we're getting less meat on the bone to meet that demand. So I'm always like, get a press release out there, tell
Right.
that story, because if you're looking for donations or investments in the organization, people need to know what's the reality and what the truth is. So.
And I'm sure that you have a really strong online presence.
We do have a strong online presence. You mentioned it. We have 2 daily newsletters on the weekdays, and then we have a print every other week. So every 2 weeks you're getting it. The food truck story was our cover story this week.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we're putting new news up there every day. And, you know, some of our headlines you can read for free, but subscribers get full access and the print and our other, like the Regional Leaders Magazine and other special hubs we do.
It's very low cost to subscribe, and I encourage everybody to do so because it's good information. I really enjoy it. Well, believe it or not, we've been chatting for 25 minutes.
25 minutes.
So we're going to close this out. Jennifer, Dave, is there anything else you want our listeners to know about the Quad Cities Business Journal?
We just want to hear all their ideas. You know, we love that story behind the story, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. You know, you'll find our website, quadcitybusiness.com. There's a thing called the story tip. You can fill that out, or just find our emails and send us an idea. We'd love to hear what your business is up to.
Well, thank you so much for coming up and covering everything and being so responsive and involved in our community, because it really does make a difference.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Dave,
for
be on
having
the
us.
lookout. Press releases coming your way, sir.
Thank you.
Rapid fire.
I'll find time to make it happen for sure. All right, Jenny, you got a busy rest of your week. Well, tomorrow's Friday. Jenny.
man.
Woo.
Yes.
I have my annual review tomorrow on a Friday.
No sweat.
Hopefully it goes well. It's going to be a bad weekend. All right, folks, this has been episode 108 of the Grow Clinton podcast, recorded on the 1st of May, 2025. Again, we want to thank Miles Communications for powering the Grow Clinton podcast. Be sure to check us out online at growclinton.com. Again, growclinton.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on all your major podcatchers, to include iTunes and whatever else you use. We're there, so listen up. And then we'll be back. We got another one next week. Got a couple next week.
Got a couple next week.
Man, we are just like, this is crazy. We're going to hit
know.
200 before you
We
know it.
are.
What are we going to do for the 200th episode? We'll
We'll
see.
see.
All right, everybody. Until next time, stay classy. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Clinton podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all your socials. Until next time, see ya.
All right, let me stop here. Let me end stream here.